The more the Conservative government resists a second independence referendum, the easier it will be to persuade Scots to vote to leave the Union, Nicola Sturgeon has claimed. Publishing a paper setting out the case for granting Holyrood the power to hold indyref2 at the time of its choosing, the First Minister said the tide of history was running in her favour, while the Tory strategy was self-defeating. Urging the public to get behind her position, she suggested people organise petitions and take part in peaceful demonstrations, to show Boris Johnson how they felt. With the Prime Minister firmly opposed to granting Ms Sturgeon's request for a transfer of power under Section 30 of the Scotland Act, it points to a campaign of street action in 2020. The First Minister has said she wants a new vote on the Union late next year. MSPs yesterday passed legislation paving the way for indyref2, but it requires a short-term Section 30 order, or a more permanent change in the law, to make it legally watertight. The paper argues there has been a material change of circumstance since Scots voted 55 to 45 to reject independence 5 years ago. Both the prospect of Scotland leaving the EU against its will and what EU exit has revealed about Scotland's position within the UK. Ms Sturgeon said, "Scotland made it very clear last week it does not want a Tory government led by Boris Johnson taking us out of the European Union. That is the future we face if we do not have the opportunity to consider the alternative of independence." She added, "It is a fundamental democratic principle that decisions on Scotland's constitutional future should rest with the people who live here. As this document lays out, the Scottish Government has a clear democratic mandate to offer people a choice on that future in an independence referendum, and the UK Government has a democratic duty to recognise that. Last week's general election has only strengthened that mandate." The SNP won 47 of the 59 seats in Scotland, its second-best result. Meanwhile the Tories, whose campaign had focused on opposition to an independence referendum, saw their share of the vote slip in Scotland, losing more than half their seats. Ms Sturgeon said she expected the response from Westminster would be a restatement of the UK government's opposition, but added, "The question is often posed to me, what will you do if the Prime Minister says no? But it is for the Prime Minister to defend why he believes the UK is not a voluntary union of equal nations. It is for him to set out why he does not believe people in Scotland have the right to self-determination. We live in a democracy, and ultimately democracy must and will prevail." She added, "The more they show complete and utter contempt for Scottish democracy, the more support for independence." For more on this story, visit the news article link.